AskReddit by deleted. What are some red flags in an interview that reveals the job is toxic? I always ask everyone in the room when their last vacation was. This is a great tip. In one interview I was enthusiastically assured that overtime wasn't an issue, but if you pick up an extra shift they pay in gift cards so that it saves you on taxes. I know they're trying to save themselves employment taxes and time and a half. They're not doing me any favors. I declined their offer. The IRS wants a word with you. We'll start you at minimum and re-evaluate in a month. Which turns into a year. When I mentioned a company's dismal Glassdoor evaluations, they became so enraged that they ended the interview. Well, I suppose I escaped that danger. I brought up a company's poor Glassdoor reviews during an interview before too. They were all complaining about the owner of a small company. The folks interviewing me looked at each other and said that the owner could be difficult but he's in Mexico most of the time so I'd never have to see him. I accepted the job because I was desperate, but sadly that was around the time the owner decided to stay around and get his hands in everything. I was only there for 8 months and I think 5 people left before I did because of him. An interviewer tried to convince me to lowball myself after I said what I'd accept as a minimum salary, which was in their offer range from the posting. If we pay you more you wouldn't get a bonus at the end of the year, and you'd be really upset when everyone else got one. What he was able to offer salary wise was $10k below their posted range. I'd rather get a salary than a bonus anyway. A salary is guaranteed, a bonus is not. The interviewer keeps telling you how fortunate you are to be there, like they are doing you a favor by giving you the job. I worked for a dude once and I overheard him down the hall talking to a client. The client had said something really nice about how pleasantly I work the desk, but then my boss countered saying, well, she should be happy, she gets paid more than I do to sit around. Not only did he get 2.5x more than me for the hours worked, but there was so much more. Bro. I single-handedly updated all of your computers, learned how to do x-rays because you didn't feel like doing them anymore, shoveled when we got shit on by a blizzard, kept the place clean and fucking sanitized every single day, handled every not fun business call with no support, and listened to you abuse your poor sweet wife every day. I left that place as soon as I could. Dude was a sociopath. Had an owner of a restaurant tell me, if you have a problem don't come to me cause you won't like how I fix it. Yeah, keep your job. One of the key functions of being a boss is helping the people under you solve a problem. What a douchebag. Trying to get you to agree to start before they tell you what you'll be paid. I applied to a position out of state and was offered the position during the phone interview. When asked when I could start I replied 2 weeks, but stated I couldn't accept without knowing how much it paid and having that in an official offer letter email. This dude lost his shit and said all huffy puffy, well, I mean, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I guess if you have to know I can get that for you. I said yes, I have to know. He said he'd call back. He never did. I interviewed for one once where the manager spent the whole time asking me the usual questions in between rounds of berating some poor tech support employee on the phone about their payroll software. Also, anytime a hiring manager talks up the company's bonuses and raises to justify their low salary, you'd better believe you're not actually getting either. I left my last job back in mid-December. They told me my salary will be ready in the first week of January. Today's the 8th of January and an hour ago I called and they told me it'll be ready next week. Once I had an interview where they silently gave me a questionnaire to fill out for 50 questions and just went to another room. The questions were very detailed and stupid, mostly about money. Is your goal to make money in our company? If the answer is yes, then you didn't pass. I left before I even finished answering this list. And then I found out that they register employees for an incredibly low official salary, promising to pay most of it at the end of the month. But they delayed money for 6 months and don't give it out if the person quit. I'm glad I left. That sounds so very illegal. I drove about 4 hours to an interview in another city. I told the person interviewing me that I was happy at my current job and wouldn't consider leaving just for the higher pay. He stood up and looked over the cubicle walls to make sure no one was around and whispered, "You don't want to work here." I passed on that job, but while in the new city I applied for another job where I have been happy for the last 25 plus years. That dude is a hero. Deleted. Huh, that's funny. I usually say that I expect my employer to be flexible regarding my work schedule. D. If you hear the word sales mentioned anywhere in the job description, then sales will be your main job. Yup, I worked in a call center as technical support. They really forced us to make sales our priority. One time I spent 15 minutes in call to explain to some old lady, step by step, how to fix something on her phone. She was really thankful and I felt good about helping her. I end the call and my team leader comes over to chew me out because I wasted too much time on that call and didn't even try to sell her anything. That was the moment I realized, man, fuck this job. When they don't realize that you're interviewing each other. After realizing this, I was never nervous again. When they have nothing good to say about the person whose position they are trying to fill. They aren't necessarily talking bad about the person, just little digs, almost passive aggressive. Once you realize that all upper management is family. This, or they're all from the same church or community. Nothing like being passed for a promotion by the new guy because he's with the higher ups every Sunday despite being totally incompetent at the actual job. Classic nepotism. If you have to pay any amount of money in order to work for them, it is a scam and stay away. I once had to pay $100 for a background check to work at a public school system. At first I thought it was a scam, but turns out they were just super poor. With that being said, if I wasn't talking to the literal principal of the school in his office, I wouldn't believe it and would have walked away. So this is still definitely a rule I abide by. What did you earn at your previous occupation? We are not looking for someone with a 9-to-5 mentality. Here you will truly be a part of the corporation family. I remember it was kind of a breath of fresh air when I took my current job's interview. They said bluntly most people get turned off by the idea of a 9-to-5 nowadays, but that unfortunately is exactly what this is. You can make it 8-to-4 if you want, but none of us really want to get up that early if we don't have to, and you're also in that boat. Turned out to be an awesome job. Very laid back and realistic. Everyone is just trying to make sure that everyone else goes home on time. Sometimes we end up staying an hour late at most, but it never feels like a chore. Mostly because I know I could have left on time and no one would have said anything about it. I'm just doing it to help my team. They really are just friends at this point. Assigned seating in the lunchroom. Wow. Yep, that's not just a red flag, that's a crazy flag. We work hard, play hard. OT is basically infinite, and you can work it as much as you want. We have a high turnover rate cause people just stop coming to work. Work hard, play hard is code for this job had driven everyone in the department to become alcoholics. Second-hand info, but one of my co-workers told me an interviewer asked for her social media passwords to expedite their background check. She did not comply and bailed on the whole interview. It was some small-it firm that got government contracts. Don't recall the name and amp. I'm not going to guess because I don't want to smear the wrong employer. I only remember the story because we were all shocked at the audacity. Can I have your Reddit password to verify this? What about X? It's confidential. What is your policy on Y? It's confidential. That's more red tape than red flag, but it depends on what the job is. When I was building aircraft for the government, I heard that a lot. It's a different story if you're interviewing at Wendy's. I did an interview 2 days ago and the red flags I saw were: 1. Not sticking to the agreed upon time that they chose. We began 40 minutes late. 2. They were rushing through the questions and kept saying they were short on time. 3. What's your current salary? 4. Don't expect a standard 8 to 4. This position requires long hours, some weekends and public holidays. We need to make sure you understand this, and also, are you married or got any kids? 5. Listing responsibilities not mentioned at all in the job description. As an insights analyst, why would I have to do site visits? 6. I pulled out a small book with my questions. They looked nervous because short on time and they kept saying they were hungry and didn't eat all day etc. 7. Asking me for ideas on how to improve their app. How would I go about starting this one specific project etc. One tip I have is to ask what lies outside the scope of your role. If they are unable to tell you this, then this could mean the role will be a dumping ground for all the work nobody else wants to do. We're like a startup is usually bad. Everyone has to wear every hat and is completely overworked. Anywhere that makes you feel it is your privilege to work there, main example being any form of internship or unpaid labor. Unless you're in college, don't ever take internships. All those months you're working for free you could be getting paid somewhere else. They don't explain their business clearly. Neither do they give you good clarity on your role. I once had an interview with a small company. The director who took my interview was being very vague about what they do. Most of her answers were, "You'll understand better once you start working." I took the offer, worked for a week and realized it's just a pyramid scheme. If they ask you to clock out and then keep working to finish closing or whatever, run away fast. It's never just a one-time thing. If you are an hourly employee and you are ever asked to do work off the clock, that is patently illegal. They are buying your time from you. It's not free. Don't ever work for free. Residents from CA, CO, DC, NIC, and WA need not apply. They have salary transparency laws, so the company is going to lowball you big time. I thought I saw something like that on Amazon. If it seems like nobody has a personality, I always make it a point to make some small talk with receptionists or people interviewing me. If they shut it down immediately or just otherwise give off a "WTF are you talking to me" vibe. Nope. This is so important. The writing is on the wall. When the existing employees are shitty to each other, you can 100% expect them to be shitty to you. When you ask them a question on what challenges they face in the role, certain facial expressions are telling. Also, if the management never did the role themselves or haven't learned the day-to-day of their employees, they lack perspective. We expect salaried employees to work at least 60 hours a week. I see. So can I expect 150% of the market salary for this position? Hardly any interviewing and an offer on the spot equals they're desperate and there's high turnover. Edit. Okay guys, I think we've made it clear that it's not 100% of the time. Good lord. This is sometimes true, but not always. If your qualifications speak for themselves, the interview is usually just a formality. At my current job, they offered me the position after a quick 5-minute chat on the phone, and the turnover rate at the company is super low. It helped that I knew somebody who worked there already and they vouched for me, but I insisted on an interview anyway. People sometimes forget that an interview is a good way for the candidate to learn more about the job they will be working at too, and they focus more on surviving the interview process just to land the gig and start earning money than they do on whether or not the job is actually a place they want to be at long term. The thing that screams desperation to me is they expect you to work weekends or overtime right after you start. That's not a company that has their shit together if they need to onboard their brand new employees with a ton of stress. If that's what it's like when you're new, imagine what it'll be like when you are a tenured employee. Or worse, if you're actually good at your job. We have a high staff turnover. Not sure why. Turns out the owner was a manipulative, aggressive, underhanded psychopath. Describing the staff as a family. Work hard, play hard. It's an older established company, but everyone working there is young new aside from the higher ups. Also, if you ask what's the best part about working there and they address things like, oh, it's a great location or we get free lunch, instead of saying what they like about the actual job or company. I once had a job interview where I asked the two interviewers what they liked about working there. They looked at each other in horror and laughed. No thanks. Refusing to say why the job is open. You have a right to know what you're walking into. The job is open because the last guy was killed at work. Are you a 9 to 5 person? Like that's bad. Not because they're super cool about you coming when you wake up at 12 PM and leave when you want because you'll finish up at night, but because they plan to bug you after work hours and on the weekends. And they try to present it as if sticking to agreed working time is boring, not what cool fun people do. Lol. I see now someone already mentioned the first point, so here's one more. Asking you to do actual work for them as a part of hiring process. Not like checking your portfolio, but giving you real assignments they can use as a test you'll never get paid for. If they take you for a little tour through the facility, and everyone looks glum and depressed. I once had that, and one person mouthed no and another shook their head when the hiring person wasn't looking, and yes, everyone looked miserable. I always ask politely if I can see the work area for that reason. This job won't pay your bills. This was a movie theater back in 2017. Oh my god, who would ever take the job after hearing that? Any job that wants you to account for every second you're working and will discipline you for going even 1 second over whatever allowances you receive for lunch break are the worst. Places that strike you for clocking in at 8:01 instead of 8 o'clock or for taking a 17-minute break instead of 15 are the worst. I work for a very large company and on the whole it's very good on this front, and my current team and department are great. However, the person I reported to in my first team wasn't. I normally work 8-4 and I'm usually early, but one day I came in 8:05. Not my fault, a problem with public transport. She was adamant I shouldn't leave until 4:05 PM. I get encouraging punctuality, but it wasn't like I was regularly late and there wasn't anything I could get done in 5 minutes. 5 minutes might not seem like a big deal, but it meant I had to wait another 20 odd minutes for a bus and hit the worst rush hour traffic. We also had a director in another department get fired for keeping a personal spreadsheet on people's team's status when remote working became a thing. We treat everyone here as family. And X200B. Yeah, a foster family that only does the bare minimum to keep you employed. Here's some pizza as appreciation for all your hard work. How about a FKKN raise, bitch? If you go to the interview and there are entirely too many candidates there at the same time. A condescending or judgmental boss is not worth the money they give you. They cause far too much anxiety, and just looking at my sister, I can see the long-term effects that it causes. When it's my turn for questions, I ask about the staff workplace culture. I get them to mention turnover. If it's low turnover, it's good. If it's high, it's toxic and you should run. Edit in case anyone is still reading. By low I mean stays in job more than 2 years, and high I mean leaves before 6 months. I interviewed years ago at a place known for very high turnovers, and they would have a mass layoff after a contract was complete and then hire again when they got a new contract. I asked about this in my interview and the person interviewing me pretty much admitted to it all, and I told them I needed stability. Anything that implies you must sacrifice your free time for the job. The phrases work hard, play hard means you will work very long stressful hours, so during your short time away you will need to drink heavily to cope. This team is a family. Get the fuck out as fast as you can. They won't care about your well-being on or off the clock. The guy training me to replace him told me to run while I still could. Well, I once had a general manager request a meeting with me. I was the only female manager there. He never had this talk with the other male managers. He said, I want to make sure you're worth the pay, which was 9.50 per hour mayo, so probably that.